The world of Swiss watchmaking is like a luxurious banquet. Everyone's dressed to the nines, sipping in the finest vintage. But if you look closely, you notice Audemars Piguet in the corner, swirling a glass of understated confidence. Founded in 1875 by two friends, Jules-Louis Audemars and Edouard-Auguste Piguet, the brand makes a habit of pushing mechanical boundaries with all the cool, collected charm of someone who knows they're about to change the game. And change the game they did, thanks to a little help from a man named Gerald Genta. From pioneering complex movements to single-handedly, pun intended, saving high-end watchmaking from the quartz apocalypse, Audemars Piguet's history is equal parts style, substance, and Swiss savoir-faire. Grab your monocle and let's dive in. You shouldn't wear a monocle diving, but I think they get the point. It was 1875 in the Vallée de Joux, an alpine cradle of Swiss watchmaking so picturesque it could make a jaded city dweller swoon. Jules-Louis Audemars and Edouard-Auguste Piguet, both watchmakers with more than a knack for detail, decided to join forces. Their plan? Specialize in complicated watches, things like minute repeaters, perpetual calendars, and more gears than your average spaceship. If you couldn't explain it with a single diagram, they wanted to build it. From day one, Audemars Piguet crafted some of the most exquisitely complicated pocket watches known to humankind. Word spread faster than a watch geek rumor on Instagram. These guys were onto something special. I'm sure Rolex will release the other color of their other watch that they made 20 years ago. By the turn of the century, Audemars Piguet had established itself as a serious contender in the world of haute horology. Royalty, aristocrats, and industrial magnates all vied to get their hands on these mechanical marvels. While other watchmakers found comfort mass-producing simple three-handers, Audemars Piguet was busily assembling movements that looked like miniaturized Rube Goldberg machines, only more precise and a lot prettier. Their approach was simple. If it wasn't a challenge to build, it wasn't worth their time. During the early 1900s, the brand perfected everything from grand complications to wristwatches that told you more about the cosmic order than your average astronomy professor. They had very interesting watches such as the Star Wheel and very complicated watches such as, well, pretty much all of them. And Audemars Piguet had an international reputation for doing the impossible, making it look effortless and then elegantly signing Audemars Piguet on the dial. Let's just say that if your watch could do the mechanical equivalent of a backflip, it was probably from the Vallée de Joux. Fast forward to the 1970s, the era of disco, bell-bottoms, and of course, the dreaded quartz crisis. Swiss mechanical watchmakers were dropping like confetti at a New York's Eve party, battered by the cheap quartz watches from Asia. Audemars Piguet found itself perched on the precipice. Adapt or risk a future as a museum exhibit. Enter Gerald Genta, watch designer extraordinaire, whose name might as well be etched on the Mount Rushmore of horology. Legend has it, he was asked to design a groundbreaking steel sport watch that would hopefully drag Audemars Piguet into the modern age. Genta reportedly sketched the Royal Oak in a single night, possibly fueled by strong espresso and the fear of letting the brand down. Inspired by a diver's helmet, the Royal Oak took shape with an octagonal bezel and visible screws that practically shouted, "I'm tough, I'm stylish, and I'm definitely not your grandpa's pocket watch." Launched in 1972, the Royal Oak was a bold steel beast, priced higher than many gold watches. It was the watch equivalent of wearing couture to a pool party. Audemars Piguet took a gamble, and the gamble paid off, while not immediately, big time. The quartz crisis was a digital plague upon the Swiss watch industry, decimating brands left and right. Audemars Piguet, however, had an ace up its finely tailored sleeve, the Royal Oak. It didn't just sell, it exploded onto the scene, capturing the imagination of watch collectors hungry for something fresh, modern, and rebellious. As time went on, pun absolutely intended, other luxury houses followed suit, introducing steel sports watches of their own. So if you ever wondered why there are so many sports watches that have integrated bracelets, from Tissot to Casio to Patek Philippe, well, the Royal Oak was the original one. But the Royal Oak had already staked its claim as the forebearer of a whole new category, the luxury steel sports watch. While many Swiss rivals scrambled to release an equivalent, Audemars Piguet reigned supreme, proving that mechanical watchmaking wasn't just alive, it was thriving, armed with the octagonal bezels and visible screws. post-Royal Oak success didn't mean Audemars Piguet just popped open the champagne and called it a day. The brand continues to experiment and expand, releasing various iterations of the Royal Oak, offshore, concept, you name it, and introducing new lines such as the Millenary, which sported an elliptical case design more avant-garde than your average runway shoe. It was as though Audemars Piguet said, "We've done octagons, how about ovals? Let's keep everyone guessing." Meanwhile, AP still held on to its roots, producing complicated pieces that combined centuries-old craftsmanship with futuristic materials. The watches practically sang with tradition while showing off the latest mechanical wizardry, a balancing act akin to wearing a top hat with sneakers and somehow making it look cool. One lesser-known fact: Audemars Piguet still remains in the hands of its founding families. While many legendary houses joined bigger conglomerates, AP kept it in the family, staying as fiercely independent as that one cousin who always insists on paying for dinner. Good for you, cousin. This independence has allowed Audemars Piguet to set its own path, experimenting at will, refining complicated movements without pressure to churn out massive volumes, and staying true to the ideals that shaped it back in 1875. Let's face it, the Royal Oak is the watch that launched 1,000 memes and 1,000 waitlists. Every so often, Audemars Piguet drops a new reference, maybe in tantalum, maybe skeleton eyes, perhaps with a gem-set bezel, or even with Spider-Man on the dials. Celebrities, athletes, and rock stars flash these octagonal wonders at red carpets, basketball courts, and late-night talk shows. It's like a membership card to an ultra-exclusive club where the only rules are craftsmanship, creativity, and a willingness to pay a few dozen grand for a chunk of steel. Meanwhile, AP's been cooking up new complications, collaborating with artists, and basically throwing the classiest parties in the watch world. The brand continues to celebrate boundary-pushing designs, whether it's reimagining the concept behind traditional minute repeaters or forging watch cases out of materials that sound like they're from a sci-fi flick. From two visionaries tinkering away at the Vallée de Joux to being the brand that faced off against the quartz crisis and lived to tell the tale, Audemars Piguet embodies the spirit of Swiss watchmaking at its boldest. Through complicated movements, legendary designers, and a family ethos that has never faltered, AP has proven that being independent isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. So the next time you see that signature octagonal bezel glittering in the sun, remember, you're not just looking at a watch, you're looking at a rebellious streak that started in 1875 and shows no signs of slowing down. And if you just happen to be wearing one, well, enjoy your membership in one of the most exclusive clubs in horology. Just be prepared for a few envious stares.